Hello, everyone. Welcome to the College Tracker Show. We'll get started in just a moment. So, we have special guests with us today from the University of Denver. So, as a reminder, those that are coming into the Zoom at this time, if you have questions, make sure to write those in the chat or you can write it in the Q&A box. And those that are watching via live stream, you can still send in your questions and comments through the live stream chat as well. So I'm going to begin and hand it over to Megan, who's going to tell us more about who she has with us today, and then go into the presentation.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Victoria. So my name is Megan Buckley. I'm an international admission counselor here at the University of Denver. And we'll just kind of pop over so that everybody can introduce themselves. I'll go ahead and pop it over to Alicia.
Hi, everybody. My name is Alicia Franklin. I am the head swimming and diving coach here at the University of Denver. I'm actually Canadian too, so a little side perk for everybody. But yeah, I've been coaching here at Denver for 20 years. This is my end of my third year as head coach. And yeah, that's who I am.
So why don't we then pop it over to Jason. Jason, could you take a moment and introduce yourself, please?
Yep. Hey, everybody. Jason Kessner. I've been at the University of Denver for about 3 years, college athletics for about 8 years. My main role is really help overseeing compliance academic services for all of our student athletes and incoming student athletes.
And last but not least, we've got Asia.
Hi, I'm Asia Leckie, and I'm from just outside of Toronto, Canada. I was on the swim team for 5 years. I did 4 years undergrad and then came back for an extra year to get my master's because we got an extra year with the COVID. So yeah, that's me.
Awesome. So thank you all for being here today. Similar to Alicia, actually, I'm also Canadian. In international admissions, my territories kind of range from Central, Eastern, and Southeastern Asia, Western, Central, and Southern Africa, Oceania, and Canada. So really happy and excited to be here with you all today. For our schedule today, we're kind of going to have more of an admissions focus at the beginning of the presentation. We'll talk about what DU is about, academics and academic support, study abroad, life on campus and in Denver, the application process, cost of attendance and merit scholarships, and student outcomes and alumni. The second part of today, we're really going to focus on our athletic staff and our student athlete interviews, and then we'll have some time for Q&A at the end of the session. So we'll just kind of jump right in. University of Denver, we are really focused on having this holistic educational experience. And the way that we've decided to frame this is through something called the 4D experience. So each dimension or pillar is listed here: advancing intellectual growth, exploring character, promoting well-being, and pursuing careers and lives of purpose. So hopefully as we continue through this presentation, you'll see how this is included in everything that we do here on campus. So University of Denver, we're located in the state of Colorado. Some international students will ask, like, where is that? We are in the middle of the country, but we are not in the middle of nowhere. The city of Denver is a really wonderful city with over 3 million people. We are a mid-sized private institution dedicated to the public good. So we have about 6,000 undergraduate students, 8,000 graduate students. And really what this means is you get all of the benefit of having a smaller liberal arts style college experience, but all of the benefits of having a larger research institution also attached to that. All of those research opportunities are also available for our undergraduate students as well. And as you can see from this map here, only about 30% of our students actually come from the state of Colorado. So that leaves the rest of the 70% of students coming from across the US and internationally, as you likely deemed from my territories. Although we are a predominantly white institution still, with each incoming class, we are becoming more and more diverse with life experience, race and ethnicity, socioeconomic status, etc. And we really love that we're creating this community of diversity on campus with every incoming class. We want to create a situation where students are pushed to not only question themselves, question others, but also question us as an institution. And that's one of the values that I really think is wonderful about the University of Denver. So one thing that may be different from other colleges that you may be looking at, or maybe from your high school as well, is that we operate on what's called a quarter system. So instead of having two 15-week semesters where you take anywhere between 12 and 16 credits, we have 3 quarters and then an optional summer quarter as well. So what that means is we start a little bit later into the year, and then we end right before fall break. So for example, for me, when I would go home for fall break, I'd still be like studying for final exams and, rushing to get all of these final projects completed. However, at the University of Denver, when you go home for fall break, you have a 6-week winter break. So you can use this time to explore internship opportunities, to travel, and maybe get a job. And it's really, really wonderful for our international students or our Canadian students, because you have enough time to like go home and stay home for a significant period of time. Now, moving into winter quarter, this starts at the beginning of January and then goes until mid-March. You have about 1 week for spring break, and then you move into your spring quarter, which goes a little bit later into the year than other universities do. So when you speak to students, it's pretty phenomenal, as I'm sure you're going to hear from Asia. The number of things that students are doing is kind of insane. You're like, how is that even possible? But a lot of that is true because you have 3 different quarters during which you can take those 12 to 16 credits worth of classes versus only having 2 opportunities in a semester system. So what this looks like sort of in a degree plan, this is an example of one of our current tour guides actually, who is getting a BA in communications. So we do have over 100+ areas of study, including business, engineering, music, hospitality management, really anything that you can think of. But the way that we sort of separate out a degree plan is like so. For a BA, you would have 60 credits of common curriculum. These would be, the common core classes or general education classes that everybody needs to take. Then you have, in this example, 40 credits towards a communication major. You notice we still have 24 credits towards a Spanish minor, 24 credits towards a business minor, and then even still, they have options for 35 credits worth of electives. So you can see how someone could easily double major in this degree plan, or maybe triple minor if that's something that they wanted to do. Now, it won't always look like exactly like this for every student. Depending on what you study, you may have more credits required. So for example, a student that majors in engineering is going to be heavier credits. So it might be a little bit more difficult to do 4 minors and 2 majors, something like this as an engineering major, but it really just depends on what you choose. You can really build your degree plan the way you see fit. So also at the University of Denver, we were designated as an R1 research institution. So what that means is that we are among the top tier of research institutions in the United States, which means all of the faculty members that you're working with are really digging into some really awesome research opportunities. And those invitations to participate are readily available in your classes. Faculty here teach 98.7% of all classes. Our average class size is about 24 students. We have an 11-to-1 student to faculty ratio. So 94% of classes have fewer than 50 students. This is a totally different experience than what I had in my undergraduate. I had the experience, the typical movie experience where there's like 200 students in a classroom. You're basically taught by a graduate assistant. And while that's all well and good, I am jealous. I wish I went to University of Denver and had this really small class size, intimate experience with these faculty members that you can then create professional relationships with for the future, networking for future job opportunities. You never know. We also have a lot of really wonderful academic support programs, including our Learning Effectiveness program for students with learning differences. We also have our Writing Center, our Math Center, and lots of other available supports. One thing that really impressed me when I came to DU was that over 70% of students study abroad. Now, this is something that was really influential in my experience. So I think that this is really amazing that so many students on DU's campus have this opportunity. We have over 120 different partner programs in 52 different countries. We have programs in every single continent. The only continent we don't have a program in is Antarctica. So if you want to go see the penguins, you'll have to do that on your own time. But otherwise, there's always going to be something for you. There are short-term programs, semester-long programs, quarter-long programs, the works. So most undergraduates study abroad for no additional cost through a benefit program called the Charrington Global Scholars Program. Normally, students choose to study abroad during their junior or senior year because they are eligible to participate in this program. So in your junior year, as long as you have a 3.0 GPA, you're able to study abroad for no additional cost. That means DU will pay for your visa, they'll pay for your flights, they'll pay for any difference in tuition costs between the program abroad and attending DU. So it's exactly the same as what you would pay to attend DU, which is really awesome. Now, before you study abroad, of course, we want to make sure that you feel comfortable here on campus. So we do have a 2-year live-on requirement, which means all first-year traditional entering undergraduate students are required to live on campus for the first 2 years. We have 3 residence halls for our first year students. DeMond is the newest building on campus, so it's very, very nice. We also have Centennial Halls and Johnson McFarland, which I hear the students call JMAC for short. It's interesting because wherever you're placed or end up for your first year, it seems like people are like die hard that is the best residence hall. So there will be battles in the hallway about which residence hall is the best. I think a lot of students really are enjoying the new DeMond Family Residential Village as well. Now, we also have something called living and learning communities. So if you're interested in something that falls in line with one of these living and learning communities, you can live with these students that share the same interests. So you'd live on the same floor together. You also take a 2-credit course during that first year together. So you really develop these bonds for this cohort as you're moving through. You don't necessarily have to continue living together, but I think many students do find roommates and things to move forward throughout their undergraduate process together. Now, these themes can be anywhere from sustainability to there's an international floor, there's a JEDI floor, which is basically like computer engineering and the ethical requirements behind those ideas. Now, all students are allowed to bring cars to campus. However, you do need to buy a parking permit if you do so. Now, I don't think that that's really necessary because DU offers a transportation pass for free to all of the students. It's really easy to just hop on the light rail. There's a station right next to campus, so you can access downtown, get around town very easily. However, there is that option to bring a car if you'd like to. We also have ample on-campus dining options. We have our new community commons, which has 8 different dining options. It's really, really nice. Again, one of our newer buildings on campus. It's also connected to an app. So if you have any dietary restrictions or anything like that, it's easy to see what they're offering and to see what falls in line with what you'd like to eat that day. Now, we also have, of course, tons of student activities and wellness opportunities. You're going to hear a lot more about this from our athletics staff, so I'm not going to focus too much on it. But we do have 18 Division I sports, 30 club sports, and 20 intramural sports, depending on your level of competitiveness. We also have our Coors Fitness Center for personal trainers, fitness classes, and just a general gym for students to use. We also have over 120 student organizations and annual campus traditions. So some of my favorite student organizations that I've heard about, there's an improv club that does performances, which are super rad. We also have a Dungeons and Dragons club, which I think is pretty cool. And then another really popular club is our Alpine Club, if you're into exploring nature, hiking, biking, camping, skiing, etc. In our international admission office, we also have a group called the Global Ambassadors. So if you're interested in chatting with a current international student, you can use our platform of Unibuddy to do that. We have bi-weekly events together, and then we also use them to chat with prospective students. And of course, one of our 4 pillars is exploring health and mental wellness. So we have our on-campus health and counseling center, which is right on the north end of campus, very easy to get to, and all those services are included for students. So one of the big things for international students is like, again, where am I going? What is this? What is the city? So in my opinion, I really think that Denver is the best of both worlds. University of Denver is the best of both worlds because we're not right smack dab downtown Denver. We're kind of a few minutes south, about 12 minutes on the light rail. So you're in this safe community neighborhood feel, but you have access to the big city. Similarly, DU is mid-sized private, so we get these small classes, but we also have all this research opportunity. But Denver itself, a lot of people move here within the states because of the Rocky Mountains. I'm a hiker and I love to be outside, so that's part of the reason that I was super excited to move to Denver last October. But anything that comes with living in a big city. We have a large convention center. We have lots of public transportation, huge music festivals come through here. We have the flagship REI store, which to a lot of people is not cool, but to me, I think that's really rad. We also have a lot of restaurants, food trucks, art shows, things happening all the time. We have the second largest performing arts center in the US. And of course, the Rocky Mountains, biking, camping, hiking during the summer months, and then skiing and snowboarding during the winter months as well. Keynote, by the way, this blue bear at the convention center was designed by a DU art professor. Now, we recently also acquired the James C. Kennedy Mountain Campus. This is located in Larimer County, Colorado, about 2 hours northwest of the main DU campus. This is 724 acres. Let that sink in there for a second. 724 acres, it's really big, including sleeping cabins, seminar spaces, dining facilities, hiking trails, the works. All students will have the opportunities to explore this space through curriculum, retreats, conferences, or other special events. Faculty are also open to utilize this space as well. We're really excited to see what programs sort of come out of this second campus that we have, that we were gifted actually just this past year. Now, all this sounds fine and awesome, and how do I apply, right? So we have 2 different deadlines. For many US institutions, you'll see that they have 2 different kinds of deadlines for 2 different dates. So when you see early decision 1 or early decision 2, basically this is a binding contract. This means if you apply and you are accepted, you are committed to attending DU. So you're required to withdraw all other applications from other universities. Now, early action and regular decision, the only difference there is really the date when you apply, what you include in your application, and then when you hear back. So if you apply November 1st, you're not able to include sort of that first semester of grades in your application. If you feel like maybe you weren't doing so well, or maybe you had a rough year in your 9th year, and you want to show that you're really improving, you might choose to wait until January 15th to include some of those more recent grades. In addition, when you hear back is slightly different, of course. So November 1st, you'd hear back by mid to late December. January 15th, you'd hear back by about mid-March. We are a Common App exclusive school. So the Common App does include an essay, a $65 application fee, transcripts from all schools, and counselor recommendations. Now, sometimes students ask, like, what kind of counselor? If you don't have a school counselor at your school, we're really looking for a recommendation letter from any school official, maybe a teacher, someone who supervised you in a project, etc. Also optional to include additional recommendation letters. Maybe you had a job, you want to include a recommendation letter from your boss, something like that. That's totally cool and very recommended. Now, also something that's somewhat new, but a lot of institutions are doing this as well, is that we are now test optional. So test optional basically means that you do not need to submit the SAT or ACT if you don't want to. So if you take those tests and you get a really good score and you're super proud of yourself, please send those scores to us. But if you get your scores and you're like, I could have done so much better, you don't have to send them to us. You're not penalized for not sending them. We really don't compare students who send them to students who don't. You're in 2 different buckets. So of course, one of the top questions is affordability. The number that you see here is our total estimated cost of attendance for the year 2022-2023. Now, this is including health insurance, books and supplies, and personal expenses. However, I guarantee you that about 95% of students are not paying this full price. So please keep that in mind. As far as affordability, we are accepted we do accept the Registered Education Savings Plan if that's something that your parents are participating in. And we are approved by the Ontario Student Assistance Program as well. Now, if you, like I am, are a dual citizen, Canadian and US citizen, you do also have the option to apply for financial aid. Now, it's US citizens only, so please do keep that in mind. But if you are applying, we require the FAFSA and the CSS profile for need-based aid. And we recommend that those applications kind of go in around the same time as your application to the university, so that when you receive your admissions response form, it can be inclusive and comprehensive of all of the benefits. So when you're looking at different schools, you can really be comparing like apples to apples. What am I actually going to be paying? Now, keeping in mind that we do offer very generous merit-based scholarships to our first-year students. On the left side of the screen, you can see our annual merit awards. They range anywhere from $10,000 to $31,000 per year. This amount is yours every year for 4 years. Now, this is the merit award, so the athletic scholarships are separate from the merit awards. Our middle range, in case you're interested, students always ask me like, what do I need to get in order to get into DU? We're really looking at whole person here. We're not just looking at GPA. We're not just looking at those test scores, but the middle 50% ranges of current students for GPA is between 3.53 and 4.0. Our SAT performance ranges from 1140 to 1340, ACT 25 to 31. Now, if you're taking AP exams or IB exams, you can get credit for those for dual enrollment. Scores between 4 to 5 for AP exams is what we're looking at, and for IB exams, 5 to 7. Now, again, that doesn't mean that if you're below those scores that you will not be accepted into the university. It also doesn't mean that if you have perfect scores across the board that you 100% will be accepted into the university. We really take it case by case, and we're looking at the individual student and whole person aspects. Now, on the right side is some information for transfer students. So our merit awards are slightly different for transfer students. If you decided to go maybe to a community college for the first year and then transfer in, that is an option. We do recommend 3.0 to 3.3 as competitive GPAs for admission and merit aid consideration. So when we're talking about cost and things of that nature, we really want to also look at the value, right? What is the return on investment for this cost of an education? So DU helps students in a myriad of ways. We have our brand new Burwell Center for Career and Achievement. We have 85% of students completing an internship. 95% of 2020 graduates completed their degree in 4 years or less. And then we have 92% of 2021 graduates who were employed or continuing their education within 6 months. So we have a lot of services to help place students. We have our general career center, and then certain colleges, for example, our Daniels College of Business, have their own sort of career advising centers that can help place students, find students internships to get that experience and really continue finding and living careers and lives of purpose. And here is a list of people who have done just that. So some of these may be a little dated. Michelle Kwan is on here. She was actually a transfer student. She is a figure skating champion. I loved her when I was younger. Coming from Nevada originally, we have James Cox Kennedy on here. He's the CEO for Cox Communications, which is basically the Wi-Fi internet lord in all of Nevada and Arizona. He also donated the mountain campus to DU as well. You see Condoleezza Rice, former United States Secretary of State, lots of really wonderful people listed here. The Hard Rock Cafe, Peter Groff. So lots of really wonderful people that you can see where they've ended up and done amazing things. So thank you so much. You can please keep in contact. We have our office phone number listed here. We have our email address. We have all of the different kinds of social media. So Zeme for admitted students, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat. We've got YouTube. We have Twitter. We have an international student blog. We have a Pinterest. I'm not really sure why we have a Pinterest, but we do. And the last one is also Unibuddy. So that group that I was talking about earlier, the global ambassadors, if you scan this QR code, you can come to a list of current international students that you're welcome to chat with. If you want to hear really about the day-to-day, right, personal experience that I may not be able to answer. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Megan, for sharing. And I'm going to check out your Pinterest page because now you have me interested.
I know, it's so interesting that it's on there. I'm like, what is this?
Yes, excellent, excellent. So we do have a question from Liza, and then we are going to transition over to the athletics portion. But if you still have questions for admissions, this Meg will be hanging out with us. So just send all your questions at this time, and we'll ask our special guest. So the question was, what does a GPA of 3 equate to, I guess, percentage-wise? 3.0.
Sure. So it really depends. The GPA for each school will sort of be different. So it depends on what class you're taking. For example, if you're taking an honors levels class, it might be weighted. So it might be worth more than 1 credit or however you weight it. Also, dual enrollment classes are usually like worth twice as much. So it doesn't really equate to a percentage. That's a really good question. But if you're on sort of a different scale, if you're using the IB scale or a different kind of scale like that, our office, when we receive your application and your transcript, we will take those scores and turn them into a GPA. We have really wonderful talented credential evaluators on our team that are familiar with, it's amazing, all of the grading scales from all across the world. And they're able to sort of translate this into a GPA system so that we can compare apples to apples when we're looking at student applications. Good question.
Awesome. So keep your questions coming, and I believe we may need to add in athletics here. But another question from Eliza: if you want to compete in D1 NCAA, do you still need to write the SAT?
Sure, I can answer
Take
that
the
one.
SAT. Okay.
So for incoming students who want to enroll at this upcoming in the 22-23 academic year or the 23-24 academic year, you do not have to take the SAT or ACT to be academically certified. But in the future, that might change. I have to go back to revert to requiring an SAT.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Jason. Okay, well, we are going to transition a little bit right now and bring up Aisha, so we can hear more about what it's like in a day in the life of a student athlete. How are you?
I'm good. I hope
Good, good,
everybody's
good.
doing well too.
Excellent. So just tell us about just your journey of going from high school and then going into the NCAA.
Yeah, so I always thought I would go to school in Canada until probably about grade 10. And that's when I saw a lot of my friends in swimming would decided to go NCAA route instead of stay in Canada. And once recruiting started in grade 11 and I heard all the amazing things that American swimming provides and NCAA, that's when I decided to look into that. And I went through the whole recruiting process and everything, and ultimately fell in love with DU and landed at DU. And then, yeah, and I haven't regretted that at all. But I had a few friends that did stay in Canada, but I would say the majority of my friends did come to the States as well. So it was a pretty easy decision for me in general, I would say.
And Megan shared how the schedule, how the schedule is at DU. So what does a typical day look like for you, and how do you like the schedule?
A typical day, we would have morning practice, and then the team would go to the dining hall. We used to go to Centennial Halls, but now the team goes to the new Commons to eat, and they really like that. But and then depending on when you had classes, you would go either to class or you'd probably go take a nap from practice to get ready for afternoon and your day of classes. But I typically took morning classes, so I had class from, let's say, 10 to 12, and then class from 12 to 1. I would normally have at least 3 hours of class a day, I would say, in my undergrad. And then you would either take a nap or you'd go to practice. And then after that, everybody would go eat together and do some homework together, either at study hall, which is required for freshmen. And then if you get a good enough GPA, you get to study on your own. But and then we would probably hang out a little bit and go to bed. So that's a typical day. The schedule, the quarter system, I actually really liked, because you only had 10 weeks of a class, which I thought was it's pretty fast paced, so it keeps it exciting. And then it also, if you are struggling with a class or you don't typically like it, then it's only 10 weeks, so you get to get out of it pretty soon. And then I also really liked having the winter break. The 6 weeks is pretty amazing. We would typically train, sometimes go on a training camp, which is really fun, and then have a week at home. We would also have one of our bigger meets over that break as well, which is really fun to be with the team. That's when the team mostly bonds, I found. And then having the summer, you get to even go later into the year, into June. I really liked that. I don't know if I think it would be weird to be done school in May or April. I don't know, but I never had to do that. But yeah, so I really liked the quarter system. I thought it was pretty cool. But yeah.
Awesome. And, definitely, anybody going into college or about, preparing, enjoy the naps while you can, because, things get busier and you don't get them very often. So enjoy your naps. And so just one more question for you. What advice do you have for, the student athletes out there in general? And then just maybe related to balancing your schedule with your, what you have to do for athletics and your academics?
I think my biggest piece of advice is to just work hard, but not be too hard on yourself. And then it pays off, and it's not worth it if you're not having fun. That's a big thing too. And then in terms of balancing schedules, I think it's important to kind of like prioritize your day. So I would like number kind of my to-do list on what the priority is for it. And that was pretty helpful. Also utilizing your weekends, because the week gets a lot busier than you think it will be. And so Sunday is a big homework day, and Saturdays too, but also having time for yourself. I would go hiking sometimes on Sundays, or just like having time to relax a little bit, because it is busy and it helps to kind of recharge, especially on the weekends, or maybe a weeknight, watch a movie instead of stress about an exam that's a week in advance. But yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your advice. So hang around with us. So just remind everyone, just write your questions in the Q&A box or the chat. And or if you're watching the live stream, you can write your questions in the chat as well. So we're going to head over to athletics. So let's see if this may be a tag team with Jason and Alicia. So I'll just bring you both up and you can both just chime in. So maybe Jason, if you can tell us in general about just programs, teams, culture. And then Alicia, maybe you can tell us more about specifically swimming and diving.
Yeah, sure. So the University of Denver Athletic Department, we have 18 varsity teams across the board. Success from our hockey teams won national championship last year to a lot of our teams winning Summit League Conference championships, including Alicia, who's won multiple in a row. They've been really successful program. But with academics wise, we have 3 full-time academic staff. Their main role is to ensure that not only they're being eligible, but also succeeding. I'm in athletic departments in different areas at different schools that they want to put you in a particular major to align with practices. But at DU, we really want to make sure that you're in a program that you want to be in. I know some of our sports have engineering, business, biology, some really intensive majors that we make sure that our athletes are able to take classes that they want to and majors and also participate and be successful as well. So that's what I'd say from DU personally, from the culture here. We want to definitely achieve on the field, but more importantly, we want everybody to graduate and be successful in academic courses they have.
Well, I think if I'm talking about the culture of our team, I would echo a lot of what Jason has said. The people that are attracted to our program and who we recruit and seek to have join our team are people that are good students generally, and they don't have to be perfect students. Not everybody is, a 4.0 student, but I think people that have the intent to work hard and really do truly want to find something they like to do. We seem to attract those types of people in our program. And so that really transitions well to our sport. Swimming is a tough sport. We also have a diving team too, and that's also something that I could never do. So I have full respect for the divers and what they do. But our team works hard in the classroom and in the pool, and it's a great culture of really, truly caring about what they do, trying to figure out what they want for themselves for the future, and then also supporting one another. I think that that's been an incredible part of really our upperclassmen. Somebody like Asia, who just did a 5th year, has been able to mentor a lot of our younger students who maybe want to do that too. And so there's a lot of that happens within our team and program. But our program, we have some values that we operate on, and growth mindset is one of them. Positive communication is one. Process focused is another. And then we have some others too, but I think those can kind of exemplify how we approach things. Specifically, if I want to talk about what I expect from the team, it's good communication and hard work, but academics come first, and that's really the priority. That's why people are here. And one of the great benefits to being on an athletic team is you get to have these adults, right? Maybe it's Jason that you interact with, maybe it's an academic advisor, maybe it's someone else on my staff, but you have these people that you can go to give you advice and guidance. And second in line behind academics for me is people development. And so I take that extremely seriously. It's a huge reason why I do what I do. So yeah, hope that gives you an idea of our culture and what we're doing here.
It definitely does. And I can see how y'all are winners, right? You really focus on the mindset. So I think that's really awesome. I was going to ask you what your coaching style was, but I feel like you kind of gave us that. But is there anything else you can share just with your coaching style?
Well, the other thing I was going to say that's different than that, sorry, but one thing I was thinking about when Jason was talking is just the culture of our athletic department. And I think it's pretty unique. And I think, I've been at some other larger universities that are in some Power 5 conferences, and our university, our athletics teams really interact with one another a lot. They see each other in the Ritchie Center all the time. And then even, from my level, our coaching staffs and our athletic administration have a lot of interaction too. And I think that leads to just a higher level of functioning and people that really care about one another.
Awesome. So just to kind of talk about that, since you talked about that relationship with academics and athletics, um, how do you tie that to just to make sure that the students are balanced and getting the resources? And just Jason, if you want to jump in as well, what resources do you have as far as tutoring for student athletes?
Sure, I can start with the tutoring part. So we have 3 academic advisors who each advisor has about like 6 sports, like helps oversee the individual. And because we have 3 advisors who oversee particular sports, we can line up saying we have one-on-one meetings, I think at least once a quarter, that say, hey, where are you academically, grade wise, progress towards degree, things of that nature. And also, which courses do you need a tutor? The great thing about being a student athlete at the University of Denver is that we are able to assign you tutors in all sorts of majors and classes. So we make sure like, hey, if you're struggling, we'll reach out to you, even proactively saying, hey, particular athlete, I noticed you're struggling in this class, can we set you up with a tutor? So either an athlete can proactively ask that our staff saying, hey, I want a tutor, or we can look at our grade and say, hey, we can give you a tutor, what times work for you, things like that. So I think our staff is really good at being proactive with tutors.
Yeah, I would agree. I think for me, one of the priorities of study hall as a freshman student athlete here is to get our student athletes connected with the academic advisors in the department. And so the study habits and going to study hall is important as well, especially when you might have a roommate, you might need a quieter place to study. That's an option. We have an incredible library here that people go to study too, but that's an option. But it really, in my mind, a lot of it is to make those connections with our advisors so that they know where to go if people need help. And really, a lot of first year is just teaching people to advocate for themselves and speak up when they need help.
Aisha, if you have a comment for this next one, you're more than welcome to join in. But getting noticed, what advice do you have for student athletes that are looking to promote themselves?
Well, from the swimming and diving standpoint, like we do get a lot of emails. I probably get at least 15 a day from prospective student athletes. And those are hard for me to keep up with, to be completely honest. But I do try to respond to people. I think one of the biggest tools in swimming is the Swim Cloud website, which is just in other sports I know have similar websites where you can go and just take a look at where you might fit, which universities might be good fits for you. And on that website or on the institution's individual website, you can find depth charts for swimming, for example, or for diving or other sports that are, point or time oriented. You can go and take a look and see where you fit. So I think being educated is really helpful because you're going to be much more likely to get a response from me when you know where you're going to fit in our program. That takes a little extra time, but it goes a long way, I think. I think being persistent is good, because when we're in season, we're busy, and being persistent is good. It's good to just continue to email or, office phones are, I feel like not as much of a thing anymore, but I mean, I do answer mine, but anyway, I think email is a really good way. And then social media, obviously too.
It's bounce off what Alicia said, talk with other coaches about what they look for prospects. Like Alicia was saying, how they receive dozens of emails from prospects almost every day. So the best thing you can do is be condensed, have a video of your performance, have clear stats, and have a transcript. Seeing those big 3 things condensed with a simple email, I think coaches really appreciate that. And also attention to detail is very important too. If a coach reaches back up to you, follow up with a professional email. They don't want to say a casual kind of like texting answer sort of thing. If they can say, like, hey, this person's professional, they're really on top of things, following up on things, they really appreciate and they notice that of what I've heard from coaches.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up, Jason. I think the concise email that is like very just direct is extremely effective.
And so when it comes to those looking to qualify for these scholarships, so this is a two-part question. So, what advice do you have for them, those that are looking to qualify for a scholarship? And then how does the renewal process work if they actually get that scholarship?
Yeah, so we are an equivalency sport in swimming and diving, which means that we have scholarships that we can divide up into parts or percentages. Some sports are not equivalency. And so, that gives us a lot of flexibility to be able to use our aid in some different ways. But one of the things we really rely on is the merit aid that Megan spoke about. Almost everybody on our team, probably everybody on our team, is getting some amount of merit aid. So we really use that quite a bit. It also just allows us to bring people here that are doing well in school too. But then we just try to piggyback on that and make things work for people. And it depends. I mean, obviously you have to qualify with your times. For us to be top 2 in our team in a depth chart, or first on the team in a depth chart, would bring you more scholarship than if you were 4th. If you're swimming an event or diving in an event and you're beyond 4th or 5th in a depth chart, you're probably not qualifying for very much athletic aid. And so that gives you a rough idea. And I think that goes for most universities that are out there. There is definitely more scholarship available for women than for men. That NCAA limits are very different in our sport. So generally, that's just the way it is. So generally, our women are on a little bit more aid than our men are.
And just with merit, as long as you're staying eligible with at least a 2.0 GPA, you're able to keep your scholarship on for the next following year.
So, to answer your questions about renewals, at DU, we are on a 1-year grant renewal. Some universities are on a 4-year grant. So you have that scholarship for 4 years. Here, we're on a year-to-year renewal. That might sound maybe like not a positive thing, but actually it works fine. For us, we're able to, we don't take aid away unless there's been some problem. So, if somebody's not eligible, if somebody breaks the law, things like that. But other than that, we're really trying to work with our student athletes to be the best that they can be. And if something's getting in the way of that happening, then we're trying to find them the resources they need to improve and to balance their load, and so they can be the best they can.
Great. So we have one more question for athletics, and then we're going to bring everybody back up for a final question. Playing time. Is it possible to earn playing time, and how can you earn playing time?
Asia might be able to talk about this a little bit too from the swimming perspective, but I mean, I think it's very different in different sports, because in our sport, it's right there, right? I mean, who the fastest people are, or who the divers are who are getting the highest scores. So it's not as difficult, but aside from the times, it's really about the character piece and how hard you're working, how much a part of the team you are, how you're contributing academically too, even. All of those things go into some of our decision making on scholarship as well, so I think character is a big one, but just like where you fit earns you playing time. And we try to give people opportunities to show what they can do. And I think it can be high pressure. There's times where the stakes are high and you have to kind of show what you can do when you get those opportunities. So yeah, that's what I would have to say. Asia, I don't know if you have anything that you would add from your experience.
Yeah, I think just for that is, correct me if I'm wrong, but a lot of the time too, we had a lot of people that were around the same times and that kind of thing. And if you show, if you've been showing up to practice and you've been working hard and you've been positive and encouraging your teammates, you're more likely to get on to that relay spot. And especially too, if you're reliable and you're not gonna, that's a big part of it too, I think, for like playing time and everything, is just like proving you can do it in practice and then going to competition and doing it there.
If I could talk about Asia for a second, she was kind of our relay anchor person, because we knew that no matter what, she was just going to give it her all, and she was always very prepared. And so she was reliable. So I think that that's a good point.
Thank you for sharing. So I'm going to bring Megan back up here for our final question. And you also have time if you want to send in a question for our guest today. So the question is, what do you love most about the University of Denver? If you can't just pick one, you can say a couple. It's
That
fine.
is such a hard question, Victoria. Oh my
You can say a
goodness.
few.
I think what it really comes down to is what I mentioned in my presentation earlier, just about how you have the opportunity to have the best of both worlds, where like you can have this small liberal arts college feel, small classes, personal relationships with faculty members, but then you don't miss out on, research opportunities or having large merit scholarships available to you, or all of those things that come from going to a larger research institution. You sort of have all of that. And then in addition, the location being the best of both worlds too. Like, I love living in a city, but then having easy access to nature. We have all of these wonderful sports teams that I'm not used to being around. Like, it's just really wonderful. The vibrant energy everywhere on campus, in town. It's really a wonderful place.
Thank you, Megan. Anyone else want to share? No pressure.
I can just speak just from the athletic department's standpoint. What really attracted me to come here, also to stay here, is that other athletic departments across the country, the football schools, it's all about football. End of story. Here, it's all about the 18 sports having success across the board. How I feel like the department really cares about the success about all of our teams. And I think that's just a great thing. That makes it one big family, not one big team by themselves. Everybody's here. Everyone's supporting hockey, lacrosse, all different sports we have too. I think everybody joins together, one big, strong culture together.
Thank you, Jason.
I think to kind of like echo that too is it's had a very much like a family feel, and it still does, but especially on my recruiting trip and stuff, in comparison to the other schools I went to, it just felt very homey, and everybody was really nice. And it just, I think the size of it and the location and just Denver in general as well, it just feels like safe and like a family a little bit. And that's, I think, what I loved the most and what I continue to love about DU and being now an alum and through when I was in school.
Thank you.
I have one more thing I could add. I agree with everything that everyone's saying. Denver's just a wonderful city to live in, and it's accessible. Like you can go see music if you like music. You can go see the arts. You can go see sports. All of those things are available. But also, I think having the city nearby allows our students to have that accessibility to jobs after they graduate and internships as well. And so being in the city has been really a big draw, I think, for a lot of our students. And they all do a lot of internships, and now we have really a very wide alumni network in the city too. And so even within our program, there are things that they can pull from. So yeah.
Thank you so much, Megan, Aisha, Alicia, Jason. Just thank you for coming and sharing University of Denver with us today. We have definitely enjoyed it. So thank you so much. And just thank you everyone who joined us in the Zoom today. Those that are watching via live stream, we just appreciate you coming out and always joining us on the College Tracker Show. So we will see you next time. Thank you. Bye.